Hi, good morning, everyone. So today we are going to continue to see the prehistoric and the ancient Mediterranean world. So last class, what we learned, do you remember? Nobody remember what we learned?
The morph drawing.
Yeah, we learned the morphing, yes. And, in the lecture, the ancient Mediterranean world.
Timetable of the ancient art world.
Okay, so we learned Mesopotamia and Egypt last class, right? So today we are going to see Greece and Rome. So let's see this timeline again. So in Mesopotamia, we saw city-states by Sumerian and First Empire by Akkadians and the Second Empire by Babylonian and Third Empire by Assyrians, and the last empire by New Babylonian. And we learned Egypt. So let's see Greece. So the Greece comes from Aegean culture. The artistic cultures of the Aegean parallel in time those of Egypt and Mesopotamia. And the last period of the Greece is called Hellenism. And this is Rome. And Rome began before the century and continued to the 4th century. So now let's briefly see the Aegean culture first. So the Greek culture arose on the lands bordering sea, the Aegean Sea. It's here. And there are 3 Aegean major cultures, the Cycladic, the Minoan, and the Mycenaean. So the Cycladic is centered on a group of small islands here in the Aegean. And Cycladic art is a puzzle because we know almost nothing about the people who made it. It consists almost exclusively of nude female figures. And this is Minoan art. So the Minoan culture is based on the island here of Crete at the southern end of the Aegean, and centered on the great city of Knossos. Minoan culture can be traced to about 3000 BCE. And we take the name from a legendary king called Minos, who supposedly ruled at Knossos. The palace at Knossos features post and lintel construction with painted columns topped by pillow-like capitals. And the last culture is Mycenaean. Mycenaean culture, so called because it formed around the city of Mycenae, it's here. and flourished on the south coast of the Greek mainland. And Mycenaeans built palaces and temples, but they are also noted for their elaborate burial customs and tombs like Egyptians. And burial places in and around Mycenae have yielded large quantities of exquisite gold objects, such as rhyton in the shape of a lion's head. This is it.
Solid gold.
Yes, yes. So the word classical refers to cultures, Greece and Rome. It aesthetically indicates artwork of the highest quality and standards. So let's see Greeks first. So Greek philosophers were the first to speculate on the nature and purpose of art. Sculpture, painting, and architecture were discussed as technique. In our words, technology and technique. So technique is things requiring a special body of knowledge and skill to make. And there are three artistic periods in Greek art. So the first is archaic period, and the next period is classical period. And the last period is Hellenistic period. So let's see archaic period first. So this is called crater. Crater is one of many standard Greek pottery shapes. A crater was a vessel used for wine. And this is Koros. Greek statue depicts an anonymous boy, and thousands of such figures were curved, all of them in the same pose, and all nude, young, and idealized, with broad-shouldered, slim-waisted bodies. The Greek female statue is called core. And the painting technique on a pottery is called red figure style. The ground is painted black, and while figures are left mostly unpainted with only thin black lines to describe the forms. The red that result is the natural color of fired earth. And earlier archaic pottery has employed the reverse color scheme with black figures painted on a red ground. Now we see the classical period of Greece. The classical period dates from 480 to 323 BCE, and it is considered to be the height of Greek art. The Greeks invented contrapposto pose, this is it, to express the potential for motion inherent in a standing human. Bronze was the favored material for freestanding sculpture in ancient Greece. So let's compare these two styles of Greek sculptures. Archaic sculpture versus classical sculpture. So we can clearly see the differences between these two sculptures, right? What are the differences?
Classical is more human-like. It looks
Yeah,
more natural than real.
that's right. Exactly. So the left one is archaic Koros sculpture, It was amazing achievement to create a freestanding human. But despite of the great process, it still looked unnatural and less detailed, right? And the movement is very limited. And we can find the movement only on this left foot. On the other hand, the classical contrapposto sculpture shows incredibly natural movement, and it has lots of details, very realistic. And we can tell this is the height of Greek art.
Professor,
Yes.
how long did they take them to go from the arcade to the, what do you call it, contrapposto?
So,
How long did it take for them to improve their art that way?
So it's not accurate, but it's like 500 to 1,000. It takes a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Very
Okay, so
important.
500 years.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very, very amazing progress, right?
Mm-hmm. A
Mhm.
long time.
Yeah. And let's see their architecture. So although all ancient Greek and Rome art is broadly known as classical, the art produced during classical period was considered by later European scholars to be the finest of the finest. And Athens, this is Athens. Athens was the cultural and artistic center at this time. And Athens, which was chef of the city-states, had been built around the high hill Acropolis. So this is Parthenon at Acropolis. Greeks dedicated to the goddess Athena Parthenos, or Athena, the warrior maiden. The Parthenon is a Doric style temple with columns all around the external and inner row of columns on each of the short walls. So let's see what the Doric style. So this is Doric style that the Parthenon has. So Doric style column is simple and classical compared to the other two column styles such as Ionic and Corinthian. So what's the difference of Doric style except for the decoration part? Let's focus on the column shape. What's the difference?
It's slightly wider than the other columns.
Yes, very good approach. So is that all the wider or?
And maybe thinner on top, narrower on top.
Yes, perfect. You
Is
got
that considered sculpture or architecture?
it's architecture.
Okay.
So this is the column of the Parthenon, these. Yeah, and that calls Doric style columns. So you got the point. So the thickness between the bottom and the top is not same at all. So which means that it's not straight. However, the tall columns like this, the tall columns may appear to bend inward at the center when you see, in front of the temple. So they look absolutely straight from the viewer's eyes because we saw it upward like that. So that it is called entasis. So the architects of the classic Greek art calculated the relative errors by the viewers and applied it to the temple. So this is amazing because they did it 2,500 years ago. So the last period of Greek art is called Hellenistic and begins about 323 BCE. This style emphasizes balance and restraint while also favoring dynamic poses and extreme emotion. Let's see their sculpture. It's like this. So sculpture of this era poses with theoretical quality and complex poses. So there is a video about Hellenistic art in modern Rome. Please watch it to see more beautiful Hellenistic art. So let's get this straight. So now we can recognize the different styles by the Greek art period. So there are big three periods like archaic period, classical period, and Hellenistic period of the Greek art. So the archaic period shows the limitation to show the movement, and the classic period shows the completed technique to create natural and classic freestanding sculpture. And the last one, Hellenistic period, shows emotions and dynamic movement beyond the classic. That's the different features by the period of the Greek art. And let's see Rome. So the Roman era begins about 510 BCE. It overlaps the Greek era. The Romans admired Greek art and copied many of their works. So the most of Hellenistic sculpture, the Hellenistic sculpture of Greek, so they are not original, actually. The most of original Greek sculptures were destroyed by the church during the Middle Age. So the most of Greek sculptures we are able to see are made by Romans. These are all copied works by Romans. And Roman art tends toward realism. So as you can see on the left wall painting, all the figures look very natural and realistic. And the Romans were the best known for their architecture and engineering. And their most famous monument is the Colosseum. The Colosseum covers over 6 acres, and it has 80 arched entryway and exits. And it's accommodated over 50,000 people. This is the inside of the Colosseum. That's huge. So it's truly symbol of Rome. All right, so that's it for the prehistory and ancient Mediterranean world chapter. So I hope you enjoyed to see all the ancient arts through this chapter. So now let's see today's discussion. So before you do the discussion, please go to the week 9.2 page and watch the Hellenism art. And then here's today's discussion topic here. So discuss the architecture of the ancient Greeks and Romans, and what advancements did each culture make in buildings, and why are these works still considered such marvels today? So you can compare the Parthenon and the Parthenon of Greece and the Colosseum of Rome, or you can search other architecture from the Greeks and Rome and you can compare it. It's totally up to you. Any questions?
Professor,
Yes.
when